democracy. Then in 1961, instead of the United Kingdom to just simply present our paperwork to the United Nations and say these people are already self-governing because the trustee charter says we are here to prepare them for self-government or independence. They were simply supposed to present our papers to the United Nations to be admitted as a member nation. They said no, they will not give us independence by a separate admission to the United Nations, which they gave us the funny option of either choosing to be independent by joining Nigeria or to be independent by joining Cameroon. So that option was not given to Cameroon. When French Cameroon was to accede to get to independence as a Category B territory, they did not give them that option of joining another country, say Ghana or whatever, before they become independent. Now there were other Category B territories. It's not just Ambazonia that was a Category B territory. Let me give you the Category B territories.
Okay.
You see the injustice. Tanzania was a Category B trust territory. French Cameroon was a Category B trust territory. British Cameroon was a Category B trust territory. Gambia was a Category B trust territory. Now, these are all countries that have been granted independence normally. They are now members of the United Nations. Among these countries I have mentioned, it is the Southern Cameroon Ambazonia that was given a phony option of joining independent by joining. For what reason? It makes no sense. So we are saying that they should apply the United Nations Charter. They should follow the United Nations Trustee Charter and follow to the letter resolution. United Nations Resolution 1514, and make sure that it is applied to us also. We have a right to be. We are a big country, 8 million people. We are bigger than Uruguay. We are bigger than about 30 countries that are members of the United Nations. We are bigger than them. We are the size of Switzerland. We are bigger than about 15 countries. Many countries around the world, even in Europe. So there's no reason whatsoever that there was an international conspiracy to not grant us independence, as was mandated by the United Nations Charter, and force us into a union that we did not elect. We did not elect in a manner that we did not choose. And then when we want to cry, they let their proxy to annihilate us by killing us like animals. We have lost 50,000 of our people. As I speak to you now, every 1 hour, about 2 of our people are killed. They just go from door to door and they slaughter our people. According to the United Nations' own statistics, 1.6 million people are displaced. Many of them women and children live in the bushes because of the marauding forces of French Cameroon going from door to door, fetching people out of their doors and killing them point blank, close range. And then we have more than 200,000 of our people as refugees in Nigeria. Some of them are in Ghana. Some of them are in Cyprus. Some of them are in South America, struggling to come across the borders and enter the United States. You see, and then we have more than 5,000 of our people incarcerated in dungeons, in concentration camps by a fellow brother, African nation, that we wanted to join with in a gentleman's agreement in the spirit of African unity to form a new country. And when that process failed, they have decided to kill us, and under the watchful eyes of the authors of that. So I'm saying that the United Nations needs to go back. I know the problem is that we have in this is that the United Nations will not self-correct, and you cannot sue the United Nations. They cannot be sued. They are above the law. You cannot sue them. and they don't have a tradition of going back into their own past to correct their errors. Just like the colonialists, they cannot be sued. Because they have to be sued, they cannot even pay for their crimes. We are not saying, this is not about reparation, this is not about just correct. We are saying that we have a right to be like any other nation.
That's right, that's right.
Independence correctly according to the United Nations Charter. We are ready to forget about the past. Then let us have the right to be. We have a right to be. We are asking for the right to be us.
Yeah, that's good. That's
this experiment failed not for any fault of our own, but because of the bad faith of the other side that we wanted to join. If they have a problem with the French, that they cannot cut off themselves from the French, we are not ready to be their slaves because of their French influence.
That's right. Hold on, Dr. Score. And I'm glad you're fighting for right, because this goes without saying that it is an injustice, and a violation, for the people of the Southern Cameroon should just have been deprived of the option of sovereign independence when territories that are just even more smaller in terms of land mass and resources are being granted that sovereign independence. We'll go to break and we will be back with more. It is On Point with Wanda and Stokes.
Drop and drop. The World Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices.
Let our fallen heroes and heroines guide and shield our men and women. Let their ultimate sacrifice be the reason we change the game and give our enemies what they have been giving us. Ambazonia needs to protect its people from the terrorist troops of La République du Cameroun. The time is now to do just that.
We are enough, so let's draft, and draft. Our existence as a people depend on that.
It's time for Ikome County.
I heard you. Alone hobe tumbonaka ani betano betanga tumobala dai moni chenge ebanga botanga ni kowa so yakodo koritia sai ani betano betanga kono beba yako ani betano betanga ti ani betano ani betano betanga ti ani betano betanga ti ani betano betanga answer. Abanikosa Abambalo Mchelenya.
The World Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices.
Let our fallen heroes and heroines guide and shield our men and women. Let their ultimate sacrifice be the reason we change the game and give our enemies what they have been giving us. Ambazonia needs to protect its people from the terrorist troops of La République du Cameroun. The time is now to do just that.
We are enough, so let's draft, and draft. Our existence as a people depend on that.
It's time for Ikome County.
I heard you. Alone hobe tumbonaka ani betano betanga tumobala dai mudi chenge ibanga bote ngani kuwa soya kodo korintia sai ani betano bitanga kolo beba yako ani betano bitanga ti ani betano ani betano bitanga ti ani betano bitanga ti ani betano bitanga kolo asa abanikoso abambalo mchelenya.
The World Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices.
Let our fallen heroes and heroines guide and shield our men and women. Let their ultimate sacrifice be the reason we change the game and give our enemies what they have been giving us. Ambazonia needs to protect its people from the terrorist troops of La Repubblica Cameroon. The time is now.
Okay.
We're back with Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako. Dr. Sako, I have some listeners on the line who have questions for you. Let's go first to Deborah. Hi, Deborah. Welcome. Our guest is on the line. Go right ahead.
Hi, Wanda. Happy Friday. Thank you for taking my call, Doctor. Can you pronounce your name again for me, Wanda? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Sako. Yeah, Sako.
Dr. Sako, I know that you're telling the truth. I have some very close family members that had actually moved over to Ethiopia, and they came back to the United States. They didn't want to, but last year they did because of the changing time of the war things over there. So I know you're telling the truth, and I definitely will, whatever, if you give some information as to we can help, I will actually support your cause. But when you mentioned slavery tonight, I wanted to get your point of view, basically, because you know so much about Africa, the motherland, and just hearing your dialect and your talk. When I think about that, and you talking about what you are not going to get in reference to slavery, and it brought me back to, I'm not familiar if you live in the States here, but if you're familiar with Florida, with DeSantos, when he is saying that slavery, black people benefited from slavery. I would love to get your position, your ideology on that individual saying that African Americans, black people benefited from slavery.
Yes. Wow. Thank you. Thank you for the question.
Good question.
That's a very good question. The question I ask is, for those who know a little about the history, did slavery begin before the conquest of Africa or after the conquest? If, in my own records, slavery started after the conquest. So, and the most slaves were left the continent from areas that were completely conquered and under the European authority. So when we want to blame a conquered people, we should know that it's not altogether their fault. Some people will go with a conqueror just to live, just to survive. And there were heroes that stood against the conqueror. They were all killed on motherland. And so they say this to put a wedge between the diaspora and the continent. Those that remain there, did they remain there as free people or they remained as conquered people? The problem we are still talking about right now is to tell you that while you have arrived by the benevolence of nature, we have triumphed, you have resisted, and you are where you are. the conquest continues on those on the motherland. The same evil that took you out did not leave us after you left. We continue to be subjugated, continue to be exploited, continue to be killed, continue to be destabilized for their benefit. So to say that for example, you take me out in this generation and say I benefited from slavery, I don't know what that means, because I will not come to you today to tell you that it has not been well. I'm telling you stories that began from 1950s to tell you that we are still dying today, are killing us today. And so here's the thing: the diaspora, those of us Africans who came over by boats to this part of the hemisphere. The first thing we started to talk about was to fight for our rights, and that means the right, political rights, and even the economic right. It is not easy to get. Some of us break through, and I thank God for that. But because our everybody starts life based on his own original inheritance. That is where the foundation of life begins. Having lost the original inheritance in Africa, and we did not enjoy it either, they make sure that your fight remains only a fight for rights. Because when you come for inheritance, they will tell you you will realize that it is not easy to get it here, because you have all the forces that will come against us to make sure that we are supposed to serve this system and not to own it. Then I'm here to say that it has not been well in the house since you left. We can go back and build an Africa which is our Africa, where you can walk in the first day and you are lost in the crowd and you know you are at home. Where in this new dispensation we have discovered that there is no need for a person to leave his room and go to his living room and need the visa to go there. Where you can own and have a sense of being at home. And that can only be in Africa. This is the only diaspora where they have succeeded to separate from their motherland. Every diaspora in America, the Chinese think of China, the Asians think of Asia. If you touch Asia, you touch them. The Latinos, everyone, even the Europeans, the Irish, they think of Ireland. The English think of England. If the Israelites, the Jews think of the Israel. Anytime anything happens in their homeland, they act here in defense and they rise in advocacy to make sure that something is done. But they have succeeded to put that wedge to make sure that we are separate here in the United States. Whatever happens in the continent is not our business. But tell you what, who is in the continent? Go and find out who is predominantly in the continent. Not just causing the problem, but harvesting and depriving us of the inheritance that's our common inheritance is the same people who are telling us, don't talk to those people because they benefited from the slavery. They benefited, no. A conquered people benefited nothing. The conquered people benefited nothing, and they were not just conquered for a season. We are being conquered till today. And God has blessed us in this part of the world, that we did not all die, that we survive. And we have acquired the power that we can go back and bring real freedom and liberty to the mother continent where we belong, where we call home. Where we call home. I came to tell us that Ambazonia is that home. If you have not located anywhere on the map of Africa as home, Ambazonia, you will see, if you go there, you will even see the route where they took the slaves out of the land. I think that many left through Ambazonia, through the Bimbia shores. And I'm saying that this is your land where you need to just get your passport. Even without a passport, any piece of paper that identifies you, fly, and you can get to Ambazonia and say, I am home. Because this is our country. If we have benefited anything, it's death. It's deprivation, it's exploitation, it is killing, it's wars that are going on. you have the power. If you continue to look away, then they will have it all.
Yeah. Let's go to break. We'll come back. Deborah, good question. Kevin, I got you coming up. And others. It's On Point with Wandel and Stokes. News and Talk 1380 WAOK.
The World Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices.
Let our fallen heroes and heroines guide and shield our men and women. Let their ultimate sacrifice be the reason we change the game and give our enemies what they have been giving us. Ambazonia needs to protect its people from the terrorist troops of La Repubblica War. The time is now to do just that.
We are enough, so let's draft, and draft. Our existence as a people depend on that.
It's time for Kupe Mwanenguba County.
I heard you. Alone hobe tumbonaka ani betano bitanga tumubala dai moni chenge ibanga botanga ni kuwa so yakodo koritia sai ani betano bitanga kolo beba yako ani betano bitanga ti ani betano bitanga ani betano bitanga ti ani betano bitanga ti ani betano bitanga answer. Abanikoso Abambalo Mchelenya.
The World Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices.
Let our fallen heroes and heroines guide and shield our men and women. Let their ultimate sacrifice be the reason we change the game and give our enemies what they have been giving us. Ambazonia needs to protect its people from the terrorist troops of La Repubblica War. The time is now to do just that.
We are enough, so let's draft, and draft. Our existence as a people depend on that.
Dr. Samuel Sako. We have Kevin on the line. He has a question for you, Dr. Sako. Kevin, go right ahead. Welcome.
Yes, good afternoon, Doctor. I'm enjoying your presentation on this afternoon. I wanted to ask you a question about Russia.
Okay.
Russia in relation and the notion of colonizers, and I'm wondering how do you see Russia as a colonizer, and why is it that it seems that Russia is not spoken of? I see Russia as a colonizer. It seems that that Russia is not really spoken of in terms of being a colonizer in the same sense of the traditional colonizer nations that we know. Just can you talk about how you see Russia in relation to its, danger or to Africa or not, and whether or not you feel that Russia is a colonizer? And I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Great questions.
Kevin, here's the thing. Russia is not was not one of the original colonizers of the African continent. When they the nations of Europe gathered in the 19th century to divide Africa, Russia was not there. When they took over the lands and they shared the continent to themselves, Russia did not colonize any country. Then, incidentally too, when the African nations started fighting for independence, Russia, in most cases, they were, whether in Mozambique, whether in Congo, whether in Guinea, whether they were all over the place, here and there, helping the liberation forces, the rebels that were trying to get independence. They found themselves with their allies like Cuba and so on the same side. So some places they succeeded, in some places they did not succeed. But in the history and the consciousness of the African people, that is what they remember Russia for. Now, you should know that Africa has more than 40, it's the richest continent in the world, till even today. And so there's still a battle for control in Africa. I think the Russians were not very successful during the Cold War, when they were called the USSR. They were not successful because they came for an ideological conquest, and they did not succeed because of how the Cold War went. But they were not original colonizers. But today, they are ready to take advantage of what is going on. They are taking advantage of what is going on because of the excesses of the former colonial authorities, especially the French on the continent. They decided that Africa gets the political independence and not economic independence. They continued with massive exploitation and plundering of the people, of the resources of the people, deprived them of even the necessary to survive as a nation, such that the new declaration has discovered that their suffering is as a result of their colonial master and the kind of independence they were granted, and all that has happened after that. So there is an anti-Western sentiment blowing across the continent, and especially the French, who have about 1/3 of the countries or so in the continent. They have not taken time to review their policy towards the people. And when the people are suffering in a continent that the average age is about 30 years in some of those countries, these are youth. It's a youthful population. When they identify their suffering as coming from the French, and the French is blindly sometimes supported by Western allies, because after the Second World War, they had their understanding that they divided the world in the various spheres of influence, and one will not oppose the other. In this kind of arrangement has made them to enjoy support where they shouldn't. They should have been told a long time ago that you cannot continue to exploit and deprive the people for long. There comes a time when the people will arise. And when they arise, they will not just be against you, they will be against everyone that is in support or that is not doing something to help their plight. So the Russians are coming in to provide, to sell their arms. They are actually trading. They are selling their arms to disgruntled people who wants to get the real independence for their oppression, and they'll turn to the to the Chinese for money. So two things they were depending on the West for. They were depending on the West for money, and they were depending on the West for defense. So now they turn around, they turn away from the West, and they now chose Russia for a source to get arms and defend themselves, or win themselves away from this strangulation, and then turn to the China for money. And for the past 15 to 20 years, China has become an economic world power, funding most of the African countries that, and their own aid and they have no strings attached. It has strings like the political imposition or conditions on human rights and other things like that. They don't condition their aid on all that. They just want to buy friendship and now recolonize Africa. Now that is going to be an economic colonization facilitated by the Russians through the military might, because China is not such a military might as at now, although they are building seriously. So for now, it's Russia on the other side that is providing that military support to these countries that are disgruntled. These people who are disgruntled and nobody's listening to them, and the worst thing that they can continue in a paternalistic manner, imposing everything, condescending and disrespecting, and not creating an atmosphere of equality. When these people go to Russia, they are giving the impression that they are equals. When they go to China, they are treated like equals. They are not spoken to. They are spoken with. They speak with them. They don't speak to them. But the West has an attitude of speaking to people because of the colonial mentality, which has not left. The colonialism has ended, but the colonial mentality is still there. That is, our children, we need to tell them what they have to do. So they have just created an atmosphere that is enabling the Russians to implant themselves as a new colonial power. This time around, not in the manner that it was from the beginning, but as someone they have to look up to for military, for defense, and for not so much for economic reasons, but to defend themselves from whatever reprisal they might get from their former colonial masters. So it is just going to be a change from one. What I see now is a change from the old, from one colonial master to another colonial master. It is colonialism, the new phase. This one is necessitated by the attitude of the former colonial masters and their unwillingness to address these issues, to address the foundation of the kind of independence they gave these people, which was basically masterminded by their Cold War ideologies. Now they should come to a place where they say colonialism has ended. Nations have been established. These nations have the right to be as equals. And let's talk with them as equals. Let's deal with them as equals. Let's deal with them, whether in trade or whatever. Let's not look at them as some overseas conquered territories that we must govern and tell what they have to do and what they don't have to do. So it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we allow this to happen, especially in the West. We have
hold on a moment, Dr. Sako. Let me go to break again, and we'll come back and let you continue. We'll be back.
The World Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices.
Let our fallen heroes and heroines guide and shield our men and women. Let their ultimate sacrifice be the reason we change the game and give our enemies what they have been giving us. Ambazonia needs to protect its people from the terrorist troops of La República Cameroon. The time is now to do just that.
We are enough, so let's draft, and draft. Our existence as a people depend on that.
It's time for Ikome Mwanenguba County.
I heard you. alone hobe tumbonaka ani betano bitanga tumubala dai mudi chenge ibanga botanga ni kuwa so yakodo korintia sai ani betano bitanga kolo beba yako ani betano bitanga ti ani betano mutakele ani betano bitanga ti ani betano bitanga ti ani betano bitanga kolo asa abanikosa abambalo nchellenya.
The World Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices.
Let our fallen heroes and heroines guide and shield our men and women. Let their ultimate sacrifice be the reason we change the game and give our enemies what they have been giving us. Ambazonia needs to protect its people from the terrorist troops of La République du Cameroon. The time is now to do just that.
We are enough, so let's draft, and draft. Our existence as a people depend on that.
It's time for Ikome County.
Chumubela dahi mune chengeno Chumubelo mune chengeno Chumubela dahi mune chengeno Chumubelo mune chengeno Chumubela dahi mune chengeno Chumubelo mune chengeno Atko Nyika I heard you alone hobe tumbonaka ani betano bitanga tumubala dai mudi chenge ibanga botanga ni kuwa so yakodo korintia sai ani betano bitanga kolo beba yako ani betano bitanga ti ani betano mutakele ani betano bitanga ti ani betano bitanga ti ani betano bitanga kolo asa abanikosa.
Dr. Sako, welcome back, everyone. Dr. Sako, have you expected any type of help, assistance from the United States?
Yes. We have basically depended on the United States to do something because as the superpower, they have the power to get things done at the United Nations, and they also have the power to act unilaterally when it is right to do so.
Yeah.
When justice and democracy is concerned around the world, they have demonstrated that. So we have relied on the United States to do something. Also because at the level of the United Nations, if this matter has to be resolved at the Security Council, where Russia and China and France are seated, they will have the veto power. So we needed to work with the U.S. because they have the power. They can act unilaterally when U.S. interests and democracy and human rights are concerned. But unfortunately for us, the world is a club, and if you have not been in the club before and you are just trying to join the club, every club will first of all on their default position of every club is to defend their members.
Okay.
French Cameroon were members of the United Nations since 1960, January 1960, about 17 or 20 months before we got independent by joining them, and we have not been granted membership. So their default position has been to let French Cameroon do something about this. That is how it started in 2016, because this present agitation that has led to this war started in 2016, when our people said we either revert to the two-state arrangement or we are going for outright independence, restoring the independence that we had in the first place. The joining has failed. So then they decided to use helicopter gunship, start killing us like game. So we think that the resolution that was passed on the 1st of January by the Senate of the United States, Resolution 684 of 1st January 2021, was a far-reaching resolution. It recommended that we should, that both sides, the Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia, should sit with the government of Cameroon and resolve this matter through inclusive dialogue. The only thing that is lacking with that resolution is that it's just talk while thousands of people are dying. That's just a resolution. We are calling on the United States to use their power to compel the unwilling party, French Cameroon, to meet with us. Because this is how it all started in 1961. We sat together, we sat down and tried to create a new nation. Now, if it's as failed, let there be a sitting down. And this is not something that we are going to be, they are going to beg somebody to do so. Because it started on the table, it did not go well. Let them be obliged to come to the table. They can use sanctions. You can use threat of litigation. They can use all kinds of measures. Tools are in their toolboxes that they can use to compel a dictator, a blood-sucking dictator like Paul Biya, to come to the table for us to resolve this. Because peace is better than war. It is better for us to sit down and talk than to look away and allow thousands of people dying without even a fact-finding mission. I think that the America can require a fact-finding mission, and there is nobody in French Cameroon that can stand against America if they require a fact-finding mission. That is where the horrors of the pogroms and all the genocide that have been going on will be known by the world. So that we will not just be a piece of statistics at the end where people will come and say, like Bill Clinton said, that I did not know that this is how much the problem was in Rwanda. And just for a reminder, Rwanda too was a Category B territory like the Southern Cameroons. Today they are independent, but we are still not granted to be independent, the right to be separate and live as an independent nation as was mandated by the United Nations. So I'm saying that the U.S., in addition to the resolution, they can demand and require the two parties to meet on the table, either through their direct or indirect mediation. They can demand that. And the only people who can withstand the French in all their designs against the people of Africa is the United States. This is a moment when the African people are watching to see who will listen to them, or who will just cling to traditional allies and interests and reject and forget to listen to them. America has a listening ear. Democracy requires them to do so. And I think that if they listen to us and they listen to us, they will be able to bring the other side to the table. We are not a people of war. If we were warriors who wanted to just fight like people say in Africa, there are only wars and wars, why don't you live together in peace? If we were not a peace-loving people, we would not have persevered for almost 60 years of annexation without war. And now, when we try to arise, they are killing us, and the people who can say, stop, or even the United Nations the United States can ask for a fact-finding mission. You know, when you set up a fact-finding mission, you are giving signals to the annexationists that there will be consequences. Because when these facts are all known, there will be the ICC, the International Criminal Court, will take over. That's what they used against Vladimir Putin. Why are they not using against Bia? Instead, Bia is still a member of the United Nations Human Rights Council. That's ridiculous. A person who is killing people at will and with impunity is still a member, violating human rights, is still a member of among the 47 members countries of the United Nations Human Rights Commission. That they voted out Russia from that commission. We are saying that as goes Vladimir Putin, so goes Paul Biya for violating United Nations charters, for killing innocent people, for killing brothers who just decided to join them in through a political process, not war. They did not conquer us in a war. We decided to try to join together to create this bigger African family through a political process. Why are they targeting us to kill and annihilate all of us? And the world cannot is watching. United States has the power to do so. With the power of the Afro-American diaspora, we can turn around this. They just because our voices are few. But when we realize that this is our problem and we speak in one voice, I think the political apparatus will listen to us and will do the necessary. Because whether they are French Cameroon or they are British Cameroon, we are brothers. And we are the same diaspora.
That's right. That's right.
That can represent to make sure that the peace is achieved, not through war, but through direct negotiation.
Absolutely. Dr. Sako, how can we support, where can we go to find out more information and to support the efforts to pursue justice, in a nonviolent way? As you said earlier, you just want peace and you want to be able to just be and be independent. Where can we go to find more information to support the efforts as you're fighting on this journey?
Okay, you go to statehouseboya.org. State House is our presidency in our city, in our capital city called Boya. State House is STATE, BUEA is Boya. State House Boya.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for sharing with us and making our audience aware of what's going on, the political climate, the crisis, the war, and you're looking for safety and security, and you want to have the rights of all the citizens to be able to operate as an independent people. And certainly we appreciate you taking the lead in your efforts on that. Thank you so much for sharing, and anytime you need us, you know that we're always here because we're the voice of the community. Thank you so very much, Dr. Sako. We appreciate you.
Well, yes, we surely will need you, and we do appreciate you. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's On Point with Wanda Stokes. We'll be back on tomorrow. Great conversation, great hearing from Dr. Sako about what's happening over there in Ambazonia. And of course there, that fight for justice, it's the last country in Africa to be decolonized. And of course all of the genocide that's going over there. But it's important for us to know what's happening. That's right, with our people. We're News and Talk 1380 WAOK. Thank you, Chantel, our producer, and thank you, Angela Green, our executive producer. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a
The World Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices.
Let our fallen heroes and heroines guide and shield our men and women. Let their ultimate sacrifice be the reason we change the game and give our enemies what they have been giving us. Ambazonia needs to protect its people from the terrorist troops of La République du Cameroon. The time is now to do just that.
We are enough, so let's draft, and draft. Our existence as a people depend on that.
It's time for Kupe Mwanenguba County.
I heard you. I heard you. Alone hobe tumbonaka ani betano bitanga chumubala dai mudi chenge ibanga botanga ni kuwa so yakodo koritia sai ani betano bitanga kolo beba